when I watched the film as a filmmaker, I had a slight suspicion, or just I wondered like how authentic the journey was, because it was very the narrative was sort of very powerful. You came in as a feminist, and then were sort of, your mind was changed by the stories that you heard, and you came out with a very different experience. Yeah. And we interviewed Warren Farrell recently in America, and I sort of said that to him. I was like, well, you know, Cassie, and how authentic was that journey? And he said, no, it's completely authentic, and told me a little bit about the backstory of what you were telling him as you were going through it. So I'd love to hear more about that journey that you went through in making it.
Well, I appreciate you being honest, that you're skeptical of, is this girl for real? Was she really a feminist? And then started to question her beliefs after talking to men's rights activists. And I think I would have had the same reaction if I didn't make the Red Pill movie and I watched it as a feminist. I think I would have been very skeptical. Well, first of all, I don't know if I would have watched the Red Pill movie, seeing how the media was talking about the film. But yeah, I definitely would have been skeptical, because it is such a sensational idea for a story, for a documentary, and it's almost too strange to be true. But yeah, it was actually kind of a suicide mission for me, where I had 100 hours of footage after filming men's rights activists for a year, but working on the film for 3.5 years. And I knew the journey that I went on was going to make me extremely vulnerable and open to critique and debate, and probably a lot of people would question, you know, who am I, and am I true in my video diaries and in my interviews and all that. And even men's rights activists were questioning me as a documentary filmmaker going in to interview them. So really everyone was wondering, is this chick for real? So yeah, I knew in making the film there was going to be a lot of skepticism about me, and I just figured, well, I have to put it out there, and whatever happens, happens. And I say it was a suicide mission, because if it completely flopped and failed, knowing that I put the raw, real journey out there, then as well as having the stigma now against my name, being a part of this highly controversial topic for a film, I would have to go into hiding, and I resolved that in my head as well. I can just become a mother. I'm already a hermit anyways. I'm a homebody, so I was willing to take that risk, and luckily the film really resonated with a lot of people around the world. So I'm glad I took that risk.
Could you describe that journey of what you went through? What were your intentions going into it? What happened during it, and where did you end up?
Well, my intentions going into it were, I mean, it talks a little bit about it in the film. I was looking into the rape culture topic for a documentary, and what really made me decide not to do a film about that was because it was so depressing when I started looking into the stories that I could cover, and I didn't know if I could put years of my mental headspace into that topic. But when I was trying to figure out the cause of the feminist view of rape culture, I was pointed towards the men's rights movement. And at the time, A Voice for Men, this online hub of men's rights activists, was the largest and fastest growing men's rights movement online, and they were definitely the most controversial, with Paul Elam being the provocateur of the movement. And I thought, well, this is interesting, and I researched and found that no one had ever made a film on the men's rights movement before. It was fairly a young movement still, so I thought I was going to be the first, and it was going to be a shocking piece, and it would be a feminist going undercover into this misogynistic world, and I would expose them for who they really are, and really that's what I thought the film was going to become. And sure enough, as I started interviewing men's rights activists, I knew that that idea that I had of men's rights activists was not the truth of who they really were and what they cared about or why they were a part of the men's rights movement. And so then I had to put my own agenda aside and really start to listen to what they had to say and why they care about this movement, and ask myself, is there still a story here? And there were definitely moments while I was filming and editing, I was wondering, well, who's going to care about, fathers' rights and suicide rates and male victims of domestic violence? Do we really have, of all the issues in the world, is this worth someone's 2 hours of their time to watch a documentary? And the more I really started to dig into it, I realized this is a huge, pervasive issue all throughout the world with gender relations and what's happening for men opting out of marriage, and the MGTOW movement, and feminism kind of dominating the pop culture and the media, and obviously I began to see that with the release of the film. So I didn't know quite the extent until the film was released how much the average person's view of gender politics is really the feminist ideology of gender politics. So I think what really intrigued me was how, when I started to realize how biased I was against men's issues and my knee-jerk reaction to wanting to dismiss them or victim blame male victims of domestic violence, for instance, I realized that, wow, this is a lot deeper than I thought. I really do appreciate that you told me that you're skeptical of my journey making the film and whether or not it was a scripted plan for sensationalism. And even if I never made the Red Pill movie and I just went on the journey of filming all these men's rights activists and questioning my own beliefs, I really do believe that I benefited from going on that journey, especially in my own relationship, and also understanding my father figures and male friends better. I think I could have been more private about my evolved views, and maybe that would have saved me some stress over the past few years. But because I chose to take my transformation public and show it in this film, it really kind of, I guess I asked to be on the stage for stones to be thrown, and I am glad that I did it. I know that it helped a lot of people making this film, but I don't think we're anywhere near where we need to be. And I think the Red Pill movie was just a very early kind of icebreaker into these conversations. But I think we have a long way to go with gender relations, and hopefully eventually finding a healthier relationship between the genders, but mostly for children. A lot of men's rights activists I'm hearing are becoming very anti-marriage, and kind of in the sense that MGTOWs, men going their own way, are anti-marriage. A lot of men's rights activists are also moving in that direction because they believe the institution of marriage is so corrupt and divorce courts are so corrupt that they don't want to engage in it at all. And the danger in that is children, because I think where men's rights activists are contradictory in their views is if they're anti-marriage, but they also stress the importance of present father figures, father-to-child connection. You need marriage to strengthen that relationship, and men's rights activists have done a lot of work, and even non-men's rights activists have done a lot of work in showing the importance of present father figures and the danger of single mothers. And I would like to see marriage valued and looked at from a scientific standpoint of building a healthy society rather than from a religious origin. Because I'm not religious, and I wouldn't even call myself a traditionalist. But I do think marriage is a very important part of the backbone of our society for children. So I think we need to look in that direction and hope to move in that direction.
I watched the Red Pill film and thought it was really interesting. It's subtitled "A Feminist Goes Inside the Men's Rights Activist Movement," and as you see in the film, she changes her mind about some of the things that she hears. But I also had a kind of suspicion that it's a very good narrative. And as a documentary maker, I kind of thought, well, how much of that was actually authentic? Was she really a feminist, or it's quite convenient that she changed her mind? But what was your experience of her when you met her, and did you see that journey yourself?
I have had the advantage of seeing Cassie from feminist days and feminist initial interviews, where she would use words like patriarchy and dominate and stuff like that, that all revealed, since they came out of her so naturally, combined with the fact that her last two films were very liberal, this all revealed an honesty about her being a genuine liberal and a genuine feminist. And so, and I could see her, listen with the pretense of an open mind. But then and then I saw the challenges that she went through. We happened to live near each other, so when and she shared with me, and shared in the film, I believe too, the fact that the first time when she listened to us, she pretended to listen and absorb and not be filled with objections, but her mind was coming up with feminist answers to our questions, and the discounting of what we were saying. And it was only when she went over the transcripts of every single interview she did of 40 people that she realized that we were not saying what she was having her mind say that we were saying, things that were very different, and that there was almost nothing that she could disagree with. And so she began to play our message by her feminist friends, thinking, my goodness, I really heard something different, and this is really an important part of what needs to be a dialogue, not a monologue. And she did that, and then she started getting scared because almost all of her feminist friends were just completely unwilling to hear any of it. And this shocked her because she assumed as a feminist that her friends were open-minded. And this is exactly the same process I went through. And Cassie came to me and said, I'm afraid. Is it true that these women are not listening? Are they going to unbecome my friends? Am I going to lose my financing? Am I going to lose my reputation? Am I going to be the devil like you are? And I said, yes. And she went, whoa, that was not I expected assurance, not that answer. And I said, but you will also be known for your integrity. You'll also be free to do and say and do films in the future that come from what you discover, not what other people who finance you want you to discover, and you'll become a free agent. And that's what happened for me. I became free to say to do the research on the boy crisis that led me to understand that boys do so much worse when they don't have a significant amount of father involvement, and just to say that, and then to document 70 different ways that was true, and not be fearful that I shouldn't say this, but I can say this, and how could I say that, and how can I twist it and turn it to be a good boy to mommy, and it was like I was free to be my own agent. And that's what Cassie has freed herself to do by moving to the next level. And I said, yeah, you have to make the decision. You'll either be, you'll be well financed and comfortable, or you will be go through some challenges, but you will also create new allies and people who have deep respect for what you're doing. And I think when it comes to gender issues, The Red Pill is by far the most courageous documentary that has ever been created.